I'm going back to Every Frame of Painting for a second. This movie is incredibly good at creating striking images. That's one of the things I mean by every frame of painting. Striking images. You can watch a TV show that doesn't have any striking images. Law and Order, for example, almost never has striking images. It's just people. You're just watching people doing their job, and the camera doesn't fall down. The director's making the TV show, it's fine, but it doesn't have striking images. Maybe there's a dead body, but it's not shown in like a particularly dramatic or interesting way. It's not lit in a dramatic or interesting way. This movie Night of the Hunter is incredible at creating these striking images. One of which, for example, in the basement, when Harry Powell is chasing them, he chases the kids up the stairs like Frankenstein with his arms up like this. It's like a cutout. It's like the basement has been removed. You're looking at, so like I guess the point is like here's the basement, here's the stairs, but this whole area is just blank. It's just black. Because I guess it's just like solid rock because they're underground. It's like it's not shaped like a rectangle. It's just like earth, I guess, or solid ground or whatever. So it's shaped oddly. There's another example of shape being used in an interesting way. You'll remember that line from Rear Window where Stella tells Jeffries, she calls his camera a portable keyhole, and I mentioned that in the days before hardcore pornography, if you wanted to see naked people, you sort of put your eye up to the keyhole because in those days the hole for the key was big enough that you could see a little bit through. And if somebody locked their door, you could still see through it and maybe see them having sex or something. That exists in this movie in one of my favorite shots in all of movies, which is the stripper scene. He goes to see a stripper, and she's on stage taking her clothes off. And if you take a look at the way that's shot, the camera, it creates there's a blackness here, here, and here. Like this whole area is black, and this whole area is black, but it's shaped like this, this, and this. Black here, black here. Why? Looks like a keyhole. Keyhole is where you would look to see into someone's bedroom to see them doing naked things. And so when he looks up at the stripper, she's framed by a keyhole. If you were standing next to him, would you see that keyhole? No. You're not looking through a keyhole. It's symbolic for you, the viewer. It's something the director put in the movie for you, the viewer. Why? Because it's a striking image, for one. It's interesting. It's unusual. It's also it captures, it's supposed to make you feel dirty about watching this. Like, are you some kind of peeping Tom? And you'll remember one of the points of Rear Window is that Jeffries loves looking at people when they can't see him. So do you. You love looking at people when they can't see you. That's what movies are. Your chance to look at people when they can't see you. If Rear Window suggests that you're a peeping Tom, just by sitting in a movie theater and watching a movie, Night of the Hunter says that a little bit as well. If you enjoy watching this girl stripping, you're basically like a peeping Tom, somebody who's sort of using other people for illegal pornography purposes. So it's a really neat and unusual. I've never seen a movie in my whole life that decided to just have a symbolic keyhole in the way the shot is framed from the director to you, the audience. Because none of the characters can see it. If you were standing next to him, you can't see it. That's why you got to focus, not just on what's happening in the story, but the way it's told. Why is the lighting chosen like this? Why is the music chosen like this? Why are the camera angles like this? Why is the frame shaped the way that it is? Cool. So these are all really, really good things to kind of talk about. All right, cool. Well, this is going pretty good. All right. I don't have a ton to say about character. I probably should say, well, I guess we'll talk about some characters. This movie does a really good job with minor characters. One thing that happens in movies sometimes is there's a lot of focus on the main character, and everybody around them is just sort of boring. But this movie does a really good job. Not just, obviously, it's dramatic. Powell is amazing. He's one of the great villains in. Oh, wait, I'm going back for a second. I forgot something. I mentioned striking images. One of the most striking images I've ever seen in any movie is in this movie. And I hope you remember what it is now. Shelley Winter's body at the bottom of the lake. Now, for starters, and again, I don't like to overemphasize this because I think it makes it like movies back then, but they're better now. And that's not true. But that's a hard shot to get. They didn't use computers for that. That actress had to go underwater, and they had to have a special camera that would film underwater and sort of show her. But it is a haunting, beautiful image. There's beams of light coming through the water. Light looks different. This movie is interested in light. It shows bright lights and pitch black darknesses, but it's also interested in the way light looks when it comes through the clouds. It's interested in the way the light looks when it bounces off the water. It's interested in the way light looks when it's in fog. And in this scene, it's interested in the way light looks when it goes through the water to that whole underwater area where there's the seaweed kind of gently floating and her hair is floating in the water, and the seaweed and her hair look similar. And it's an eerie, strange, scary moment. Like, because it's so unusual to see a woman in a car underwater is just a with beams of light coming in through the top of the water. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful scene and very difficult to get, right? And you can imagine another movie would just toss her body on the side of the road and be like, "Yep, she's dead." And this movie decided to make art out of that moment. It doesn't really give you much new information for the story. I mean, you know she's dead. I guess maybe you don't know she's dead. Maybe they have to make it a little more clear. But it's very beautiful and dramatic. And in fact, the moment is underlined by something Birdie says, which is he says the slit in her throat looked like another mouth. Like, holy shit, are we writing like creepy poetry about her dead body now? That's an incredibly disturbing description. And I'm going to come back to this, but I mean, it's worth pointing out that uh, do I want to say this? Maybe I should just turn it off and not say this. No, I'm going to say it. Slit is a slang term for vagina. Um, uh, so it doesn't, that seems like a crazy thing to say right now. But one of the big things this movie is about is hatred towards women. And so the idea that the suggestion of that, just hinting, it's not like Birdie meant that, but the fact that the idea is floating around has a kind of I don't know. It gives the whole thing like a weird sexual charge, which a lot of this movie has, because it's very much about hatred of women. Again and again and again in this film is interested in it. So I'm sorry I said that, but I did say it, and I want to keep going. I'm not. If you're watching this, I didn't delete it. I decided to keep that in. Okay, cool. Another really super striking image is Reverend Powell praying in prison with a knife with love and hate written on his tattoos. Love and hate written as tattoos on his fingers. It's an incredibly beautiful image, but scary. It's a very scary, disturbing image, but it's dramatic. Because, first of all, it captures his character so well in a single image. Praying with a knife, like with a switchblade in your hands while you're praying. It captures the bonkersness of his bizarre, almost culty version of Christianity. He's like a cult. He's like a religious cult, but there's only one person in it. And it's him. He gets his messages directly from God, and it's really dramatically captured. Because if you just saw that image printed out, it's interesting that a religious guy is in jail. It's interesting that he's got a knife while he's praying. It's interesting that he has love and hate tattooed on his hands. Um, it's just another really just very dramatic, very striking image. And it captures something larger about the character. He's like really grabbed by this kind of incredible sort of moment. Okay, cool. Um, I may want to also talk about some smaller character. Oh, a little out of time. I'll have to go into the next video. Cool. I'm doing really good here. Um, the images of the animals are also incredibly beautiful and striking. It's very strange. So many animals. There's a turtle, and there's a spider, and there's a rabbit, and an owl. There's all these creatures in the movie. And again, they're supposed to. One of the things this movie is doing, again, it's very beautiful, haunting, interesting, but it's suggesting something, which is that the ways of the city, like that drugstore that Ruby goes to, are dangerous, but the ways of the country are much pleasant, or they're nicer and they're good. That the animal world is maybe a good world, and that the city world is a bad one. And that's complicated by the fact that the owl kills the rabbit. Nature's dangerous for little ones. But the animals at that early in the movie, when the kids are floating, it feels like they've escaped the bad world of civilization and they're entering a kinder, gentler world of God's nature. And that gets complicated again because the natural world has its own kind of violences in it, as we see with the owl. Um, All right, cool. But the strikingness, and again, it's not realistic. All those animals, it's crazy. They're all just, it's crazy that they're all there, but it feels like a storybook, which is great.